When you're describing visual structure, we want to focus on where things are and what those elements are, not specifically the subjects. It's fine if you tell me that the man is in the middle, but what we want to focus on is the middle, where he is. So the focal point in this artwork is really important. It helps us both identify where we're supposed to look and then explain why we look there. It also helps talk to us about balance or symmetry. So this person is the focal point. He's the focal point because he's largest. He's nearest the center. He's fairly light. And of course the bed is light as well, but we're more likely to look at a person than at a bed. We also have directional lines of his legs pointing us up towards his body and his face. This body is a directional line pointing us to the face. We have some lines on the bed which also sort of direct us down a little bit. But again, major important thing, light. He is lighter than some of the things around him, and he's large. If we were to divide this picture down the middle, split it right about there, we have him as an important focal point on the right, and on the left there is less visual weight or visual importance. So the visual weight is here. We also have some other things that we focus on, the other figures, but we start with him. We move to these figures later. We move to the bed later. We move to the child under him later. This is where that visual weight is. This is where the emphasis is. And that means that this has asymmetrical balance. It is asymmetrical because the emphasis, the visual importance is over here. It is balanced because we don't end up feeling like this is off or crooked or messed up or something like that. This guy's large visual weight or visual importance is balanced by the distance. This figure is farther away. This is a secondary visual weight, a less important visual weight, you might say, is farther away. It's a little bit darker. It's a little bit smaller. That shape. And I know it is difficult, particularly with an emotional painting or artwork like this. It's difficult to separate out what you're seeing because you react to this artwork as this is a horrific scene. But it's also important. One of the reasons I give you something like this is because I want you to practice separating out talking about visual structure from talking about subject. That's why this was the picture I chose. So we have talked about emphasis, balance, line, directional line specifically. It's also important, many people pointed out that this has a monochromatic color scheme, a limited color palette. We only see black, white, and maybe kind of a brownish color, part of the feature of the way this was made, the lithography print that this was made with. We do see the illusion of depth. We see it because this figure is larger than this figure. We see a foreshortening in this leg, not particularly in this leg, but in this leg where we don't see the full length of the leg. If you were to grab a ruler right now, hold it up to your screen and measure the length of this leg and measure the length of this leg, you're going to find that this one is longer on the page or on the screen than this one is, because this one has been foreshortened. That helps give us that sense of depth, of the illusion of depth. Other things that are showing us the illusion of depth, shadows. Shadows show us that a mass is in front of something and blocking the light. We see both contour lines wrapped around pieces like the pillow and on the bed that show us the depth of those masses. We also see them on some of the bodies. So we've talked about line, shape, mass, shading, depth. Another way we see depth is overlap. We cannot see all of the bed because this figure is blocking some of the bed. We can't see it because it's overlapped. We can also, it's fairly subtle in this image, but horizontal perspective or horizontal positioning means that the things that are lowest on the picture plane, here's the bottom of the picture, here's the top of the picture, the things that are at the bottom of the picture plane are closer to us than the things that are higher up. This figure is closer to us than the middle of this person's body, and this person's legs are closer to us than this person's body. And that has to do with their position on the picture plane. The picture plane is the flat surface, the paper or the canvas or the screen. The picture space is the illusion, the imaginary space that we think we can go into because these people are in there. We cannot because it's a drawing or a print, but it appears that we can. Another thing you can talk about here, rhythm. We see repetition or rhythm of different sorts of lines. Of course, we have rhythm and repetition of the figures. We can see multiple limbs, which are organic lines, essentially. We can see the lines in the pillow, the lines that are the folds of the blanket and the folds of this figure. Of course, we can see the repetition of these small marks, and you know what they are, but I'm trying to get you to focus on talking about visual structure and not subject. And when you spend a lot of time telling me what they are, it sometimes distracts you from focusing on what they're doing as visual elements. I think I've covered most of the things. Texture, I suppose. We do have some sense of texture. We can get a bit of a sense of how smooth things are. Someone mentioned the blurring of forms that are farther away, and that can sometimes be used to show the illusion of depth. In this case, it shows us a limited amount it helps us focus where there's sharper lines. It also gives us a sense of how dark it is in this space. All right, I'm going to do another one of these later. I'm going to focus on Paris, a Rainy Day, and talk again about visual structure related to that. You might want to practice yourself on Paris, Rainy Day.